Welcome to the Core podcast. This one's a little bit special because it's just hosted by me. This collection of fantastic podcasts comes from a load of amazing, influential women in tech. I'm really excited to share this with you throughout October. I hope you enjoy. This is a great podcast to check out. It was a delight to chat with Vanessa from Byte IT, who I have actually had the pleasure of working with and alongside for the last couple of years or so, or maybe even more than a couple of years, with her fantastic experience with working in this industry, within tech and within marketing. And that's why it was such a pleasure to interview her as one of my influential women in tech. She has some great ideas and some really, really great knowledge on why cybersecurity is a great industry to get into, not just from a tech or a sales perspective, but marketing too, which really excites me. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you, Vanessa, for joining us today and taking the time out to be part of this campaign, which is helping us to talk to as many women as possible that are influential and involved within tech. So I really appreciate you joining me, especially as I think I started working you when I really, really early days with Core to Cloud. So to anyone that's not aware of you and your business, Vanessa, would you just quickly introduce yourself and a bit about your career and where you are now?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, thanks very much for having me. Great initiative. Should be really proud of it. I hope it's going really well for you. So just to introduce myself, my name is Vanessa Cardwell. I am the managing director and founder at a B2B technology marketing agency called Byte IT Marketing. And I think you just wanted a little overview of my career today and how I sort of ended up in cyber.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I assume you have a marketing background and how did you end up in IT, or were you in IT and then the marketing came along? So I definitely didn't come from an IT background. I did my degree in marketing, went into film, so I never thought that I'd end up in cybersecurity. So a bit about you would be great.
Yeah, no worries. So my background is pretty much all marketing and marketing tech. Okay. So I started my career at the BBC in marketing roles, and I worked on, pretty technical broadcast solutions. So I looked after BBC Studios, BBC Outside Broadcast, BBC Post Production. Wow. So that was my complete background. Was always had a technical slant to it. Mm-hmm. And I was at the BBC. The BBC was very good to me. I was there for about 12 years. Wow, okay. I was very lucky. Yeah. Very lucky with my career. I started, as you might be able to tell from the accent, working at the BBC in Belfast in Northern Ireland. Yeah. But was desperate to move to London. And the BBC gave me that opportunity, as once I was there in technical marketing roles, they gave me the opportunity to apply for all the internal jobs that I could. So I found myself eventually working at BBC and Television Centre. Wow. Which was a brilliant experience. Yeah, looking after studios and post-production outside broadcast marketing with a brilliant team. But I realised, pretty quickly that I could stay very comfortable at the BBC if I wanted. Right. And, I worked up through the ranks in my role and thought, it's time to challenge myself. So after I had my first daughter, as you do, you decide you're going to, yeah, exactly. I
think it's something when you have children, it just changes your brain and you think, yeah, I'm going to do something more risky. Brilliant time.
Exactly. Great time. I left and I started doing small business consultancy. Okay. I'm just working 2 or 3 days a week, working for different organizations and working around my childcare and working around my daughter, and found actually that I really loved this, how rewarding it was working for small businesses rather in a marketing role rather than large ones, because the BBC, you're a cog in a wheel. If you are supporting an organization to get off the ground with their marketing, there's nowhere to hide. No. If you're going to be introducing a marketing campaign, the results are going to be really obvious. So I found that really rewarding. And then eventually found myself in working for a reseller. Okay. And I worked there for about 6 years. And that's when I started getting into marketing and vendor campaigns around cybersecurity, cloud, infrastructure, and really enjoying it, and finding actually that once I got over the initial shock of, oh my goodness, it's so technical, I found it brilliant. And then I decided to set Byte IT up 6 years ago and apply all the skills I've learned working for small and large organizations to my own business. And here we are 6 years later, and getting new business every day. And
you're doing amazing. Just see, like, you're constantly recruiting. It's just incredible. I just think from when I first started working with you, it must be when I first started, so about 4 years ago, the journey that you've been on as a team and who you work with now is very aspirational. You've done amazingly.
Oh, thank you. It has been, I'm not going to lie, really hard work, setting up your own business. It is 70-hour weeks. It is, you have to be across everything. You wear many hats, but I can honestly say, hand on heart, I've never enjoyed doing anything more than working for Byte. And the variety of organizations we work with, and the amount we've learned, and how we've grown. And, I'm so lucky. We've had some wonderful experiences, worked on some great projects and initiatives, and we're still going strong. So it's all good.
Obviously, you did the BBC, which I think I can relate to a little bit because I went into the whole film and all that sort of thing. Obviously, a big initiative about this is getting women into tech, and why it's quite inspirational. When did you have that light bulb moment? I mean, I remember seeing some of the tech in action, and I can empathise. There's a lot of jargon and a lot of tech, and you think, oh my God, I'm never going to understand any of this. But actually, when you start peeling the layers back, I actually found it kind of James Bondy. It was quite interesting, and I don't know. There was actually quite a bit sexy, really. Actually, this industry, when you look into it and what you're protecting and things like that. What was kind of your light bulb moment that it was a bit like, actually, I could really do some good here, and I could really, really do some campaigns that could make a difference? Was there a light bulb moment? Was there a certain technology or someone that you worked with and you thought, oh yeah, I get it?
I think it was very much a little bit of a combination of all of those things. I don't think I had a particular light bulb moment.
No.
But what I do feel very fortunate about is that this is a growing and burgeoning industry.
Yeah.
It's cutting edge. It's really expanding, and that acceleration in the cyber and tech industry is only set to grow.
Yes.
So the fact that we're working in that industry really, really excites me. Yeah. And I think that the fact that we've just come out of, a couple of challenging years, as everyone else has, the cyber and the technology industry, it's proved its resilience during that time. It's more and more relevant and prevalent now. The shift to hybrid and remote working was kind to a lot of organizations in tech.
Yes.
A lot of those organizations did really well during quite a difficult time for other industries. And I think that is really exciting. I think the fact that it's fast paced and it's continually changing keeps it interesting. And you'll know, working at Quarter Cloud, there are so many new vendors and technologies popping up all the time, all over the place.
Okay, yeah.
And that's great. It's always changing and evolving, and there's so much variety. So from that perspective, that's really, I suppose, the bit that keeps me interested. There's never a dull moment with tech.
That's true. You also can't. I don't know. I've learned that you one fit doesn't necessarily fit for one vendor. One messaging doesn't always fit for one vendor, or even with where people are evolving information, like and absorbing information, like digital marketing. I mean, I think when I was at uni, Instagram may have just started. Snapchat was like tiny. So even to think how much that's evolved in the last 10 years, for a marketeer, it's not only keeping up on the pace of that, it's also the trends of cybersecurity and people's needs and pains in that market. So I feel it's never really a dull moment. Would you agree if you're getting into the industry?
Absolutely. And I think that is, that's a really good comparison to make. You've got the acceleration of cloud and cybersecurity solutions, driven largely by the growth in ransomware and cyber threat on one hand, and at the same time you've got the digital marketing channels and the fast pace in which they're evolving. So you really can't sit still. You have to continually evolve your knowledge, and you have to continue on both sides, evolve your knowledge on the cyber side, but also on the digital tools and techniques that you have at your availability to make sure that you tell your client's story and message accurately. So that that makes it really interesting, and this is a really interesting time to be both in cyber and tech and in marketing. So
I agree.
What we do, I think.
We've got it on both on great sides. We've got we sell something that's really exciting, and we work in an industry that I feel like never sits still. I think I listened to a different podcast and something comes in, and there's one on the metaverse the other day, and I was thinking, oh goodness, I'm going to have to learn to market in a virtual reality world soon. That's a whole different thing. I'm just trying to work out the current world I'm in, let alone do the virtual. So that's definitely true. We were talking about our children and summer holidays, depending on when people are listening to this, are kind of coming to a close for us. Do you feel that, how do you explain to your children what you market? And do you feel there's enough in schools and colleges to promote, firstly, the industry of cyber, and even to get more women in tech as well around the educational period of our lives, which is quite impactful of what route you decide or what degree you decide to do, or what apprenticeship for that. So do you think there's enough at the moment around?
So this is a really interesting question. I have teenage daughters. And so and they're both at a state school in London. So I can only really go very much on my own experience of that. And I think education still needs to do a lot to evolve their message around cybersecurity and the cybersecurity industry. So they are doing computer science. That's what they do. They do computer science as a subject. And often, it's quite boring, and they're teaching the kids to code, which is one very small element of a wider piece of the puzzle. And whilst, it's great that they're getting girls to, young girls in particular to learn those skills, I think they're really missing a trick about how exciting the industry is as a whole. And as we've already discussed earlier on in this podcast, tech changes quickly, and that's exciting. And the kids shouldn't be coming home from school saying, oh my God, computer science is so boring. And if you think about, just the pace, how literate our kids are in terms of tech, how fast they pick up shortcuts on their phones and how gaming and all of that, compared to us, there's no reason why that shouldn't be really, really exciting for them.
And completely.
I just feel that element is really missing in schools. And I think, we still take quite a traditional approach to that. And I think if you could get some of the exciting messages around innovation and the value of tech in the real world, and how that's such a growing industry, you get more people interested in it.
I completely agree, because I can think I've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so I'm on the beginning of this journey, especially when the social media side of things kicks in. I'll ask you some more questions about that with having 2 teenage daughters, but how quickly they can use phones and things like that. You would think that there would be, maybe if it's more gamified, or maybe it's just context of understanding, because code, like you said, is one tiny element of the big spectrum of getting involved in tech and in this industry, and very important. But maybe it's a bit of context, or them understanding, or I don't know, the right peers explaining it. I'm not really sure. Or maybe it is the importance, firstly, of keeping yourself safe online, because I think we overshare on social media, and I've been known to do that. And from doing podcasts over the last kind of year or so, I've learned, not to overshare my kid's birthday and their picture of them starting primary school and all that sort of stuff, things that you think's really innocent. allows people to create a profile of your kids. How have you managed that? And do you think, is that put on yourself? Do you feel like you do that at home, or do you think there needs to be a bit of support on that with school? Because that, I can imagine, must be a bit of a minefield with the social media, because you can't switch it off. We know how important it is as marketeers, but how do you balance that security piece for your two girls?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. Yeah. And I have to say, my experience of both the primary school and secondary schools that my girls have attended they're very good on that. They do the literacy classes for the parents. They're constantly educating the children about what's safe online. They're clamping down on negative things very quickly. For example, WhatsApp groups popping up where, unpleasant things are being said by, about teachers or other pupils. They do stamp on that really quickly.
That's really
good. When your children are young, so your children are obviously younger than my two, that mine are 17 and 14, you can, when they're younger, avoid it, and you can, restrict it.
Yep.
And you can say, my girls didn't get a phone until the summer before they started secondary school.
Yep.
They didn't need it. But then you can't, you have to embrace it.
Of course.
Because it's all around them. So you cannot stop them having a phone. You can't stop them having access to social media channels, but what you can do is teach them a safe way to use it. And so we have had restrictions on things like the times they can use certain applications. It's understanding how to use the iPhone to make sure that you can set that up, and then just educating them about what is appropriate use, and also around kindness in general, I think, which really applies to social media. It's like, don't post anything on there that you wouldn't want to see printed in a newspaper or printed on a magazine about anybody else, that you wouldn't want to, that you'd be embarrassed about somebody saying about you, and teaching that kindness. And I have to say, my girls are interesting users of social, in that at 14 and 17, I think the generation just up from them, these sort of later teens and early 20s, seem to be the real selfie generation. Yes. There's a lot of pouting, a lot of close-up selfies and things like that. Whereas my girls don't like photographs on social.
It's interesting how their mindset's different.
Yeah, the mindset is different, and they're changing how they use social and how they interact with it. And very quickly, my children said, "I don't want you posting my pictures on social."
Wow. Okay.
So I have very few pictures of my children post year 6 online, because they just said, we don't post a picture. And occasionally, if one snuck through, I got in a whole world of trouble.
I'd have been the same, though. I think if you look at every photo of me as a teen, I've got some moody face on. If you look at all our holiday pictures, I think from 12 to 16, it looks like my mum's dragged me there in pure pain. Like, there's one, we went on an incredible trip in New Zealand, and I look very unhappy in every photo. I don't think it's true. I just hated every photo being taken of me. So there's a bit of that. So I kind of empathise with them, and then to have it on social too. But it is interesting, and I wonder, really, by the time my daughter, so she's 6 in November, when she gets her phone, and I'm thinking probably similar time, secondary school, will it be completely different to them? Will I not have to, it would be like a weird, when you say, oh, yeah, we used to smoke in restaurants. Will it be weird to her if you said, oh, yeah, people used to post pictures of themselves like that? Maybe she'll be completely shocked and would be like, how did we let that happen?
That's so weird. Why was everybody taking pictures of their own faces?
Or changing them, or she might be completely, who knows? Technology is changing so much. She'll probably have an avatar of herself, so no one really knows what she really looks like anyway. Who knows? But it is interesting how it's evolving, and I don't think you can avoid it. And I think you need to empower and educate and show. It's like you get taught about stranger danger. I remember that really vividly as a child. But the more you understand, and it just helps, doesn't it? Technology is not going anywhere. So to keep your kids away from it's not actually going to help them in the long run. If anything, it probably make it more appealing, a bit like alcohol, isn't it? If it's a taboo, if it's a taboo.
And when I was at school, we didn't have social media and mobile phones.
No.
But I think we owe it to our children to try and keep abreast of what's going on. And that's probably one of the, that is one of the big plus points of working in this industry, is you've got a deeper insight potentially around technology and changes and social, and helping to keep them safe online, that perhaps people working in other industries don't have. But at the same time, the fact that their digital literacy is so much more advanced than ours was at school is also trusting them to be able to navigate their own world, because they're not, our teen experience, I'm older than you, but my teen experience will be different to yours, and your teen experience will be different to my daughter's, and your daughter's will be different again. And I think, they're more robust than you think.
Agree. And I think you do need to keep up, because teenage experiences, like you said, I think maybe, I don't know, like 10 years in some generations wouldn't have been much different, but 10 years now is a big difference with how technology is changing.
Yeah, exactly. And it sort of seems, it's crazy to me. I remember getting my granny a mobile phone so that she could phone us if she was in trouble, and trying to teach her to use the mobile phone was just, she was just the loveliest woman, but it's kind of hilarious now.
Did your granny charge it? Because my nan never used to charge it, and we used to be like, we're trying to ring you, and she's like, it's in my handbag. Have you charged it?
Exactly.
No.
Well, she used to try and talk into it like it was a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
I can't hear anything talking into it like a walkie-talkie, and then I know experiences of my my friends whose parents are older, who don't know how to use internet banking and things like that. And I just think how you have to use technology, to make life easier.
Yes.
And therefore you sort of owe it to yourself and the people around you to kind of stay literate and just, stay up to date. So it just seems crazy to me that we don't do more on that side to
completely agree. I do agree. One of the reasons we're also running these series of podcasts is talking about influential women. And actually, Vanessa, I feel like you've probably smashed most statistics that I've looked into. So 22% of women are afraid to try something new and fail, compared to men at 13%. And statistically, women are only likely to apply for a job if they meet 100% of the criteria, where men are happy to anything between 50 and 60%. You have launched your own business in probably not the original industry that you started in, and actually at the time in probably a very male-dominated industry. Wow. What did you draw on? Did you have mentors? What kept you going? Because if you were a statistic, it probably would look like you should fail, but you haven't, which is incredible. So do you have any kind of, I don't know, core pillars or things that you think really allowed you to do so well?
So that's such a good question, and thank you for the vote of confidence there.
No, you have.
It's nice to hear it. You don't often sort of sit back and go, yeah, that is pretty. I'm pretty pleased with myself, because you're just always moving to the next thing and moving to the next thing. And I think a lot of it comes to do with two things: the kind of work ethic that I have and all my family have. So my mum was always a really hard worker. She had times in her life when she was on her own, and she had 3 kids, and she always worked really hard. And I think myself and my 2 siblings all have the same work ethic. So we're all grafters, we're all hard workers, we're all doers. And I think that is the key to a lot of this success, is you have to be a doer, like you are. I've on the time that I've worked with you, you have an idea, you make it happen, and that's the difference between actually delivering it and being a doer. And then also, I have to say, I have been really fortunate in my career to have had some of the best bosses ever, and I've had some great male bosses, but I've also had some really amazing female bosses. And one of the reasons I'm able to to work in Byte today is, I had a brilliant boss at the BBC for years called Tanya, and she's not in the industry anymore, but often think about how much I learned working for her. And then Michelle Lewington, who was the MD at Network Utilities, the organization I was working at, she gave me the most amazing leg up. You know, she said, you can do this. And she helped me get Bite going and off the ground. And, you know, that was just the nudge and the push in the right direction that you needed. Yeah. And then it's down to you to make it work. And it's down to hard work and being confident, challenging yourself and saying yes to stuff.
Yeah.
You know, saying yes to stuff and then figuring out how to do it a bit later on. Do
you think that is a thing though? Do you think, I mean, you're a mum and so you juggle multiple hats, and even women that aren't mums, I feel women do seem to juggle multiple hats and have lots of different roles. Do you think saying yes is a big part of that? Do you think we hold back? I listened to another statistic recently that I think it's if women launched as many businesses as men do statistically a year or something, I think we'd improve the UK economy something like in the billions. But there is, when they've interviewed lots of women that have had ideas, they they make excuses and weirdly men will go into a bank and ask for a loan because they believe in that business is going to happen, where a woman will be like, oh well, I'll save a bit of money here and I'll pay for that bit and then I'll take on the next client, and because I've earned that I'll do that. And they won't do the big risk, they won't do the big. Do you think we're risk averse a bit, or do you think it's
we must be, we have to be? I mean, she's just quoted, you know, speak for themselves. They you know, they tell that story. I think women are more risk averse. I think men are bolder. I think that's why men do well in those sales roles, you know, predominantly. And but you know, we're not, women and men are not the same, no matter what you say. You know, we have skills in different areas, but I do think that there is a lot that we can learn from each other.
Agreed.
And I think being confident, knowing your worth, and saying yes, you know, they're really important lessons, and our women should be empowered to take those risks and believe in themselves. And it's sad to me that, you know, that we don't do ourselves any favors. You know, your example there of the man going in for the loan and saying, I'm going to make this work because I've got the confidence to do it. Well, yeah, we need to have that confidence in ourselves and each other, and support each other to do those, to take those risks.
You said that men and women bring different things to the table. What do you think are the key things that women bring to the table when in business? Because it's still, even though it's getting much better, there are more women on boards and growing up to the more like higher level job roles and senior roles. But if you were if anyone was thinking, oh, to put a woman into the role or just to neutralize, or, you know, what would you think that women bring to the table that's, you know, a great thing to add into the mix of any business?
Oh my goodness. What don't they bring to the table?
I said empathy. I think women are very good with empathy.
Yeah, definitely very good at empathy. And if you want a job done properly, ask a woman. And if you want a job done well, ask a busy woman.
Yes, very true.
I really believe that.
My team mock me because I have an Excel spreadsheet, but it's for my home life. So it has my children and my dog, and then it has AM, PM, and it has who's picking up, who's dropping off, what club they're going to, who's prepping, who's got dinner, and I have that at home to manage, so I can do my job.
Why am I not surprised by that?
I don't know how people don't do it. The guys all laugh at me, but I literally print it off the month before. Everyone's got a full month. They know what's going on. And then if grandparents, obviously, because they've got their own lives, want to go on holiday, I can be like, right, okay, I need to move that around. And then my team know where I am at every moment. I have two hats, but being a mum is just as important as my job role. And I've always juggled with the mum guilt thing, like I'm working too much, but then when I'm with the kids I'm not concentrating on work, and it's never really settled very well with me, with the whole balance of this as we've grown and things like that. But I listened to a podcast recently which really settled me and made me feel good, but apparently it's to do with like status and job role and security. Because I wouldn't like to think, I don't think I'm materialistic in that way, but it was more, apparently it's to do with back in caveman days. You want that status role, because if you're higher up in your tribe, it means that your babies would be better protected. So they'd be protected more in the cave, and they would be given the first round of food. And also women you know, when you do want that job and you do want to be high up and you get that horrible mum guilt, it's actually your genes from, you know, probably your cave grandma who was at the top and she made sure you got fed well, and, you know, the saber-tooth tiger didn't get you first. So for me, it was the first time I listened to a podcast and was like, oh God, I'm not picking between the two. I'm trying to make sure that my kids are so well protected and at the top of the tribe. And that for me was the first time I heard something that I was like, yes, that makes me feel so much more settled. And I think sometimes we juggle with that. Like we think that we're affecting one for the other. And I do think you can have both. I really do. If you get it right. I have some things that are really like, I always put my kids to bed and I always read them stories and weekends are ours. But Monday to Friday, I do put work first, and I always try to make sure that I'm home for bedtime. But yeah, I don't know about you. You've grown a business and you've got two, you know, and hopefully you've got two strong teenage girls that are going to see what you've done. But have you ever juggled with the balance of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have. You know, it's the mum guilt is real. You know, every stage of the mum guilt is real. It's the first, you know, dropping off in the nursery for the first time, you feel guilty. Dropping to school, you feel guilty. You know, you have that, but you sound like you've got a great balance and you're doing an amazing job with it.
I don't know about that. You can ask me the kids that in a few years' time. I'm doing it the best way I can, the way I can. Yeah.
But you have to think about the message that you're giving your children about the rewards of hard work and also, you know, they're entering a different time to us. You know, back in the day, you could survive on one salary. Yeah, that's not the case now. You know, both the majority of cases, both parents need to work because, you know, everything that we're talking about that's been so prevalent in the news, the cost of living and how expensive everything is. You do need those two salaries. So you know, there's a whole point you're making around gender stereotypes, and I think that, you know, they're still very ingrained, and I think it would take years and years and years of proactive change to make a difference. You know, just listening to you talking about your spreadsheet, who's doing what, when everyone's getting picked up, you know, you're the one that's managing the home. That's managing the home and your children at the same time as managing your job. So whilst, you know, we're still, you know, we're forward thinking and, you know, like to think we're modern women, that you're still doing the massive lion's share of that home management. And I live with a really liberal, empathetic, lovely husband, but I have the same. I have to pick him up. He does the laundry just as much and he does the cooking just as much. There's just as equal, and the kids, you know, we both brought the kids into the world, but you do have to have that at home, right? That support at home to be able to do that. You have to have that support at home, and you know, it's the only way that you can do it. So I think it's interesting to me, you know, the shift is there, isn't it? You know, the roles in the home need to be more equal, and therefore the roles in the workplace need to be more equal, and also therefore, you know, the gender pay gap and everything else. You know, it sadly it's still there, but it shouldn't be. And it is improving, and I think where it is improving is women having a voice, and because I sometimes don't think it even comes from a bad place. It's just people are unaware. It's just an unaware thing, and I think sometimes us women, and I know I'm my own worst enemy. Sometimes you just need to ask for help or say, actually, could you, especially at home, could you help with this, or could you do that with your own business? Obviously, you're allowing you are that voice with your own business. Have you got things for men and for women within your team that's like making things a bit more like equal? I believe you offer like kind of hybrid working and things like that. Is there things that you've got in place or things that were really important? I know with us, with the refurb of the new office, I was very passionate about having like a private room, whether it was, you know, for mental health or for breastfeeding, or because, you know, when I came back with after my son, there wasn't really an appropriate place to pump, or, you know, like for that sort of thing if I needed to. So is there things that you've wanted through your career to add into your business and thought, oh, that would be a nice thing to have, whether it was for male or female, to be honest? Yeah, so this is it's a really great question. And one of the, I obviously have men and women working at Byte. And one of the things that, that I'm very passionate about is, family need to come first. But at the same time, there's a job to be done here at Byte.
Yeah, of course.
And therefore you need to, and because we're client facing, and it's a client facing marketing role, our clients expect us to work harder, to have more ideas, and to be to really lead the way on that.
Yeah.
And so I don't make any secret of the fact that when I have women applying for roles at Byte, often they'll have families. I'm really open to flexibility. If your child is sick, absolutely you need to go and pick them up. If you need flexible working, so for example, we've got a mix of sort of hybrid and home working. The guys will often leave to pick the kids up from school. They might be doing work when their kids are around. That's totally fine. But if the job gets done, then there's no problem. I don't care where you are or what you do. Problem is, and I'll be quite candid about this. There are sadly some women who want all the flexibility and all of the family friendly stuff, but they don't necessarily want to do the job. So that's where I get tough about it. So quite often in the past, I've had people apply for flexible jobs or part-time jobs at Byte, and they come to interview and they say the first thing they want to talk about is how flexible the role is, when they can do their yoga class that they want to do, or you might honestly have these questions around
yoga class. What's that?
Well, yeah, exactly.
I'd love to do yoga class.
In a minute, it might be a flexible part-time role, but there's still a job to do. It's not a lifestyle choice to apply for a part-time job. What can you do for your employer? And therefore, the job gets done. I don't really care how or what else you do. If the job gets done, then brilliant.
And that's the thing also within a creative role. Unfortunately, my brain doesn't always necessarily work 9 to 5. Sometimes it could be 1 a.m. and I'm like, oh my God, I've got it. And I may work like 1 till 4 and be like, that's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think where that's changing as well, like creative, I'm sure in all roles, it isn't. I think COVID has pushed it more that time is not really a constraint now, or location, if like you can be anywhere. But I completely get, I think with women empowering women to get into roles, it's got to be it's got to be equal on both sides. Like if you're having a flexible role, you've got to own it and still do your job really well. Otherwise you're really letting down the women before you that have paved the way, if that makes sense.
I completely agree with you. You've articulated that perfectly. There has to be balance.
It has to be balance. And like the same thing with everything going on with I know there's a bit of thing about women on their period, should they be working the same amount of hours? And some people have horrific periods that I'm very fortunate I've never had to deal with. Like mine have always been pretty steady and okay. And I can't imagine, if you're endometriosis, I'm very terrible at pronouncing that, like having to work and deal with that. And I had a colleague who, had it awfully. But on the flip side of it, I don't want someone using the term like, oh, she's on her period, or equally knowing when I'm on my period. It's like a two-way thing now. Like I want women to be able to, I think if you're not feeling well, you should be able to send a message to your peers or your team and being like, this is what's going down. But also I don't really want it being publicly used as it's that time of the month. And then where's the secrecy if you're trying to get pregnant? Because if everyone knows when it normally is, and I don't know, I feel like there's something,
But we can't have it always as women.
No, we can't.
But we talk about I mentioned it earlier on the podcast. We are different. We can't pretend we're not. We can't just rock up to work with horrendous period cramps and pretend we're like men and we're fine.
No,
because we're not. There needs to be a healthy dialogue around these things, and I think now that now we're sort of seeing women talk about it. Who was the athlete recently who English athlete, what's her name?
she lost her sponsorship, didn't she? Is that when was that the path we're going
down?
No,
she was expected to do really well in the Commonwealth Games, and she didn't get her personal best because she was on her period.
Oh yes, because it impacts your speed, doesn't it, and your muscles.
Yeah, it impacted her performance. I'll remember her name in a minute. It's terrible, she remembered her name, but it affected her performance, and she was very upfront about it. And she said that is why, and why shouldn't we talk about it?
Because they do give suppressants, don't they, to athletes to not have them, because it does have such a huge impact on their personal bests. I have read that, I think, in gymnasts and things they've previously, when they shouldn't have given drugs. But there's also, athletes that have lost sponsorship because they're pregnant and things like that. That is, I think there's a long way to come and things are getting better. But I think we are different, but we need to rock that we're different. And women and men working together is an incredible power, really, altogether.
Absolutely. And and I agree with you. We don't want to be saying to our male colleagues in a male dominated industry, I can't come in today because I've got my period, and I feel really bad. We don't want to say that, but at the same time we have to acknowledge the fact that we are going to have off days
but sometimes I have off days and it's not my period. I could be in a mood with you and I ain't my period. I'm just in a mood with you. You've got to accept it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really want everyone going around like, oh, she's been on it for nearly 3 weeks. No, I'm just in a mood. Yeah. Really, really in a mood with you.
You're just really annoying.
Or the kids have been a pain that day. It may not be that time of month.
Yeah.
Right, I really appreciate, and I could probably talk to you all day, but I think we've had a really good natter. So to kind of conclude all of this wonderfulness about how we want to get women, and we want to get women in tech, and whether that's through someone like yourself and marketing and having a marketing influence, or if it's someone that wants to be in the tech and being in the technology side of things, or sales, what would you say to anyone listening to this on the brink of thinking, oh, I might do, but I don't know anything about the industry? What would be your 5 kind of top tips to maybe start looking into it?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I certainly think this is a really attractive industry to be in. It's growing, it's changing, it's evolving, it's robust, it's not going away. Tech is always going to change and evolve, and so if you're thinking about an industry to join, all of those things I've just mentioned are really compelling reasons to get into the industry.
Yeah.
If you're a woman thinking about getting into the industry, we've debated it a lot today together. Things are changing, and it's certainly becoming more female friendly and women friendly. And then I just think, the tips that I would give sort of personally to anyone who wants to work in cybersecurity, especially if they're women, would be around, be confident, challenge, be strong, know your worth. Say yes, figure it out later. Learn, read, educate yourself. You've already mentioned the fact that you're listening to podcasts all the time. And
that's because I don't have time to read anymore, but yeah.
Exactly. And then, find a mentor, seek those people out in business who can support you and give you a leg up and advise you. And you can't go wrong.
Perfect. Thank you, Vanessa. I could talk to you all day. I really appreciate spending time with you, and like I said, very inspirational to see how far your business is coming. So hopefully we'll get to work on something again soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Thank you. Have a good day. Speak soon. Bye.